How to escape the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle every month. People in this country struggle to make ends meet. According to a recent survey by Charles Schwab, 59% of adults in the United States live paycheck to paycheck. And it's not an exaggeration to say that living paycheck to paycheck is considered an unpleasant way to live life. There is no other way to put it. In a world full of opportunities, and in a land considered the richest in the world, living from one paycheck to the next only means diminishing oneself. Often, it is synonymous with living in the moment, where you have just enough for that specific period. I remember many times in the past when desperation silently crept into me as I used the last dollar in my wallet to settle the previous month's debts, leaving me worried and stressed about how I would survive the new month. For many people, this might mean going home to eat whatever is available and perhaps having a few drinks before bed, while continuing to stress about all their troubles. Only to repeat the same thing the next day, the next month, and even the next year. In this lifestyle, you are trapped in a cycle where you work to pay off debts, savings do not increase, and you cannot even afford to invest in retirement plans. As an enemy of financial freedom, living paycheck to paycheck can lead to serious consequences. It is not a sustainable financial plan. It generates financial insecurity, which is a threat to mental health. Health experts have indeed warned that relentless stress about money can undermine a person's sense of self-esteem and personal meaning, a pattern of thinking that can lead to clinical depression and even suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Living paycheck to paycheck exposes you to the risk of accumulating debt. Not only will debt payments erode your limited earnings, but they can also damage your credit. The more debt you accumulate, the more likely you are not to pay, which can seriously drag down and ruin your credit score. Additionally, you will not have room to handle unexpected bills. For example, your car might break down, your house might get damaged, or you might get injured. And then what? I know a couple of my friends who live the paycheck-to-paycheck life unconsciously. And just because they earn enough money to pay for their daily necessities and a little extra here and there, by the end of some months, they would get a loan or ask me or other friends for financial help. This is not necessarily a bad thing, but the fact is that they do not realize they have a financial self-discipline problem. So, if you recognize yourself in the scenario I just painted and if you are tired of living that kind of life, then in today's video, we will share with you some practical tips that you can use to escape the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. Method number 1. Start something on the side that pays immediately. We live in a digital world, full of many activities and online platforms. It is truly an interconnected world with many people wanting to do something one way or another, usually in the fastest way possible. So, one of the best ways to earn some extra money and, hopefully, in the long term, achieve your financial freedom is to start a side hustle away from your 9-to-5 job. To live a financially secure life, you must find a way to create other income streams. It is said that an average millionaire has 7 income streams, but you do not necessarily have to be a millionaire to have multiple income sources. If you can find a way to earn a few extra dollars here and there, it is still better than nothing. Deciding to focus on your career and waiting to start earning a 6-figure salary is not a bad thing, but it will certainly take time, and there is also the risk of being laid off in the future if things go wrong. Some of my friends earn a few hundred and even thousands of dollars online on digital platforms like YouTube, Fiverr, Shutterstock, and the like. And I know a guy who earns a few $1,000s extra selling photos on Shutterstock. So you can definitely earn some extra money online. There are many digital freelance markets, and you can do things like copywriting, editing and freelance writing, web design, being a graphic designer, a social media manager, a virtual secretary, and many other side jobs that you can easily find. Look for it, and I am sure you will not miss out on anything to do. Method number 2. Create a budget that prioritizes savings so everyone knows they should control their spending, right? And one of the best ways to do that is to live with a budget. However, even if you might think, okay, it's so obvious. Not everyone thinks so. According to consumer debt and demographic statistics in America, the typical American family now has an average debt of over $137,000, and although yes, most of this debt is considered good debt, such as a home mortgage, a good portion of this debt is due to lifestyle inflation. For some reason, people love spending money they do not have, but we will talk more about that later. So one of the things you can do to escape the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle is to take total control of where your money is going and decide to set aside a portion of it. Create a detailed budget that accounts for every dollar you spend. Make a budget for the amount you spend on things like groceries, rent, utilities, transportation, entertainment, and so on. Then proceed to set aside some money for savings. Even if your initial savings seem so small, start anyway, and over time, you will only see them grow. Method number 3. Reduce your expenses. This goes hand in hand with our previous advice. When it comes to making smart decisions about money and your ultimate goal, living a financially free lifestyle, reducing expenses might seem like an oxymoron, but it is actually one of the first and most important things you should do. Reducing expenses means saving on items and areas where you are negligent with your hard-earned money. Spending every cent you earn, just like my friends, is what got you into this mess in the first place. So when it comes to this problem, you need to be very disciplined with yourself and make sure to stick to your budget. I am sure you have heard the saying, "The holes that leak sink the ship." And the same can be said about money. So, what you need to do first is discover the areas where you are spending your money carelessly and then cut them out. And one of the best ways to do this is to track your expenses. In the true sense of the word, it is easier said than done, but if you are patient enough to track your expenses for, say, about a month, you should be able to identify the leaking areas and make some changes or plug the holes, essentially, cut them. One of the most significant ways to save money is to make effective and efficient changes to your lifestyle. Like eating out less often, opting for a less expensive car, or choosing to pay less rent. These changes will surely free up some money for you to save. The more you reduce your expenses, the faster you can escape the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. It might not be possible to make big and drastic changes to your lifestyle right away, but you can start with the small details. Try to look for the smaller items in your budget that you can eliminate. Maybe cut back on grocery spending, use coupons, or reduce entertainment by choosing to invest in activities like reading, which will surely improve your mental ability. Method number 4. Owe nothing to anyone, but love it. As I said before, people love spending money they do not have. And that is why many of them are in such a financial mess. If you continue to accumulate debt, you can easily sink into a big financial mess, and unfortunately, it will become increasingly difficult to leave the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle. Debt is one of those tools that, if used correctly, can actually make you prosper. But unfortunately, not many people know how to use it correctly, so the safest thing to do is to avoid it as much as possible. Every time you pay your debts, it is interest on money that you could have saved. All the interest, fees, and arrangements that banks charge erode many people's money. Getting rid of debt is the most important step to take to get out of a financially stress-free life. Unfortunately, not many people can control their desires, which unfortunately leads them into this mess. Method number 5. Understand your spending habits. In addition to reducing expenses, you need to take a step back and look at your spending habits. It is reasonable that you have a clear idea of where your money is going and that you are able to completely monitor your expenses. See, if you know where your money is going, you can control it. When you start this fact-finding mission, as I said before, you might start to find leaks that you were not aware of before and that have eaten up your money. But now that you know where your money is going, you can plug the leaks. As great as all this sounds, you will not be able to do it if you do not track your expenses. Method number 6. Do not compare yourself to what your friends or family have. Many people, including myself, struggle with this. We all live in a very materialistic society, and this is true regardless of where in the world you come from. Everyone cares about what people think of them, what they wear, what they drive, where they live, what they eat, or even who they hang out with. I cared a lot about what people thought, what clothes or shoes I wore, what phone or watch I carried, who I talked to, and how I spent my money. In addition to many other trivial things, which in retrospect, when I think about it, were absolutely ridiculous. Obviously, now I am much older and wiser and somehow got out of it. I realized that I do not care much about what people think of me. And even if by grace I managed to overcome this social pressure, this is something that I personally know many people still struggle with. What I like to think is that if you are personally comfortable with the way your life is, for example, what you wear, where you live, or what you drive, then admit it. Because I have noticed that even if one or two people might criticize you, most people have many of their own personal problems and do not care much about you. Moreover, personally speaking, getting into debt just to receive some compliments is not worth the stress of having to repay the loan, if you ask me. Method number 7. Limit the use of credit cards. This is a touchy subject because countless people turn to credit cards to purchase everything from trivial things to life emergencies. I know a lot of people who buy practically everything with their credit cards, and I see a lot of this with some of my friends. Every time we go out somewhere and they want to make a purchase, the first thing they do is take out their credit cards and swipe them. And I understand. It is easy, it is convenient, and in a way, it is fun. But see, the fact is that as convenient as credit cards are, many people are not aware or do not realize the interest they're paying on that purchase. To escape the paycheck-to-paycheck lifestyle, you need to limit the use of credit cards because debt accumulates and fast. According to a 2019 Experian Consumer Credit Review, on average, Americans have $6,194 in credit card debt. This is a huge burden that you do not want to have to bear. The rule of thumb when it comes to credit cards is to use them only in cases of emergency. Method number 8. Automate your savings. Although this is the last method, saving should not be the last thing you do. It should actually be one of the first, if not the first, things you do when money comes into your account. At the moment you receive your paycheck, you should set aside at least 10% in an interest-bearing savings account. And I strongly advise you to automate this process so that at the moment you receive your paycheck, 10% is automatically transferred to your savings account. If you want to take it a step further, you can buy and hold index funds, invest in stocks, bonds, and so on. We are interested in discovering your personal experience on the topic. Write it in the comments and feel free to ask any questions, we will be happy to interact. Feel free to leave a comment so that we can improve the content. Your like would be the cherry on top, and click subscribe to stay informed about upcoming publications.